Well, hi there, everybody. Happy New Year to those of you who are in the northern and southern hemispheres and Europe. And we're already a day into the new year for those of you to the Far East. Welcome to Old Hickory Lake. I'll show it to you here. In Tennessee, this is actually Pastor Bob's backyard. You may recognize it. And it is woefully empty of birds. There's just a few cranes out there. We had a really big windstorm. Hey there, David. Good to see you. We had a really big windstorm and a lot of rain. And we are unseasonably warm here. Hi, Jennifer. So, the wildlife that I had hoped to share with you has found shelter elsewhere, and though it's unseasonably warm for the first day of January, I think it's 70 plus degrees here, none of them have come back out. So how are you all doing? It's typically, this is a marker of a beginning for a lot of people. Hi, Patrick. A time when people will often ask, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Have you decided to do something different with the start of the new year? David from Texas, welcome. And I've been asked that a lot over the last couple of days. And I'm really not a New Year's resolution kind of gal, because I sort of subscribe to the idea that when it's time to move forward with things, I should set a goal and do that, and do it when it's timely. And that doesn't always coincide with the beginning of a new month or a new year or a holiday. Although I can recognize that after the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays here in the United States, that often people want to curb eating, return to diet and or exercise, and the new year marks that kind of thing. Hey, Anthony, welcome. But that's not typically how I do things. And the one thing I did decide to do this year was to really have an open mind and sort of listen to the parts of my mind that have not been dreaming, and or have been dreaming, but I haven't been paying attention to them. I've been sidelining those things in just the pragmatic needs. Hey there, Baron. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Made a resolution years ago not to make any more resolutions. Right? So, the one thing about writing things down on paper is it does significantly increase the chance that that will happen as a goal. But if you don't really sit down and break down the obstacles to the goal, then you don't usually make progress forward. Plus, you don't often identify the hesitancies that you might have in your subconscious, or maybe not in your subconscious, towards doing certain things. Making big changes in our life requires a little bit of sacrifice, and even in the sense, even if it's something for health purposes or for growth purposes, we're used to behaving in a particular way. We're used to just grinding it out in whatever way we're doing, or maybe we even embrace what we're doing, and now we need to change that. And that's no easy feat. Changing our behavior is no easy feat. We can easily get into bad things like, eating too much sugar, not exercising enough, or, maybe being self-absorbed, or perhaps the opposite, to giving. Yes, there's such a thing as too giving. If you're not able to take care of yourself, then you can't help take care of others. So whatever the changes are, they're going to be different, and they're going to require a certain amount of attention, a certain amount of effort beyond your normal amount of effort. So changing behaviors is a tough thing to do, especially if you're under duress. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Obedience to who, right? And yes, obedience to the Lord is always the best, regardless of the level of difficulty. But sometimes it's not the Lord that we're having to pay attention to specifically. And I'm not saying the Lord doesn't have us in his mind, on his heart, and providing us guidance, but I do believe that there are times where the path we can choose might not be so different in one direction versus the other that we'll be, getting a bolt of lightning from on high about it. And this is where those little choices that we learn to make all along that might put us in a position where we are then disobedient by habit. Those little choices all along matter. Being biblically in line with our choices, being in line biblically with our choices is something we always need to be paying attention to. So, if you have some ideas about what you might be wanting to do or change up in the new year, that's awesome. Throw them out there. Let's hear them. But if you haven't got any ideas, you should not be beating yourself up for it or anything else. Just because, we're all wired differently, and not every person is wired to, begin the new year. I know some people that every year they start asking, several days beforehand, while they're trying to decide what their resolutions are going to be, and hoping to be inspired by others, or maybe motivated by others, or impacted by others in some way. But perhaps the best option is to sit and spend some quiet time with yourself to see what's really important. A lot of things over this last year have been changed for so many of us because we're not, if you're in school, that's had to become virtual. There are certification programs that weren't, offered any longer because there wasn't a way for people to meet and do it. Entire industries, sports, restaurants, all of those things have been turned upside down. And so people are spending a lot of time over the last several months saying, what's important in my life? What am I doing? What do I want to be doing? What does the Lord want me to be doing? And they're great questions, and they require thought. To be able to be disconnected from a habit or disconnected from a series of behaviors and have the time to contemplate what you might want to do differently if that's an option. Hey, Cameron. Oh, well, and I have a boomy voice, so I hope your daughter sleeps very well, and we're glad to have you listening, and hello. Being disconnected from those things, those habits, those behaviors, the grind, or maybe it's not the grind, maybe it's the choice with happiness that you're in, it can cause you to pause and really pay attention and say, hey, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Now, it looks really cold here. I know, doesn't it? It is deceptive. It's like 70 degrees. I am here in a short sleeve shirt. So, prayer without ceasing. Exactly, David. That's totally the place to be all the time for all of us. In my humanity, I do not pray without ceasing. I do my best, but these times where I'm able to really sit and be quiet and contemplate the wise, my life is such that I do a lot of things for a lot of other people. So one of the things I don't spend really a whole lot of time on is the nourishment of my own self. I read the Word, I study the Word. I have a couple of people that we get into talking things through, and that's great. I have people I pray with and who pray for me. But the things that make me tick, acts of service for others, are also the very things that cause a discharge. I mean, if you're not feeling nourished yourself, what would make you feel nourished? Think about that for a second. What about your existence, who in your life, what in your life nourishes you? In addition to reading the Word and talking with people about the Word and praying with others, the spiritual life is very, very important, but also the idea that you're specifically addressing the needs of your heart and your body in the way that God wired you, because everybody's a little different. And what you want to do is be sure that in the midst of your day-to-day routine, you don't get lost. It's not selfish. It's godly. It's godly to pay attention to Him first, to what He would have you do, and sometimes what He would have you do is to make sure to take care of yourself so that you can help others. So, with that in mind, what specifically about your current existence right now is nourishing you? And how do you define that for yourself? What would that be? Now, I love studying the Word, so there can never be too much of that for me, and it's always too little. I mean, I have a job, and there are bills to be paid, just like all of you guys, right? And there are people who have needs beyond that require my help. And so carving out time to do an extra measure of time in the Word. Hello there, Amber. Happy New Year. It really does bode well for all of us to be able to spend some time thinking about that. So if I could spend more time in the Word, that would be a great excitement for me. If I spent more time outside, now I have done a better job about that in the last few months. I've shared some of that with you guys here. I've decided to take advantage of the beautiful place that I live, and so I traipse outside and spend time out there a little more. A little vitamin D, it's a healthy thing to do. Grounding with God's creation, the nature that He gives to us. Those are all excellent things. But what other kinds of things nourish you? Now, it could be getting together with people, and that's kind of been hard to do lately. So if getting together with people is something you really, really need to be recharged, have you spent some time developing a network of safety that you can do that? Or is that something you could consider now, right? Are there ways that you could do it without being in each other's physical presence? Small groups on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever the options, WebEx, whatever the options are available to you. You can play games that way. People have become so creative over the last several months and have developed game platforms where you can play games together on Zoom, and games you're familiar with even. There's lots of ways to interconnect. How about reaching out every so often on a regular basis with a text or a phone call to somebody who means something to you and that you don't see very often anyway, but staying in extra touch. Or, we discussed this last year too a little bit, writing letters, writing notes, just a postcard even, just a little something to let somebody know you're thinking about them and you care about them. And guess what? In kind, those things will come back to you, because that's how we work. So what will nourish you? How will you feel nourished? The other thing is with a new year and people asking all those kinds of questions, don't feel compelled to rattle off an answer to them. I like the idea that, You can say the standard, well, I resolved years ago not to make another resolution. But if you haven't done it or it's not something you regularly do, it's so okay to just say that. That's not a practice I subscribe to. And that in and of itself can invoke a discussion as to why, and maybe something interesting about the person that's asking you that, and the two of you would get to know each other a little better. And also, people who are wanting to make resolutions, just the same way anytime we want to make changes in our life and we're asking other people about it, that's an energy that is available and ready to borrow from. So if you're struggling a little bit for energy, even though you might not be ready to make changes or you might not be desiring to make changes, walking through that exercise with somebody else, engaging with them, will transfer some of their energy and excitement to you. And that's a great thing. We need to borrow from each other. So I hope and pray that for each of you, if you run into somebody today, tomorrow, the next week, the next couple of weeks, asking about resolutions, that you're able to give it some thought. You're able to have a response that's comfortable and truthful for yourself, whether it's a list of your resolutions that you're going to share with them, to the I don't subscribe to that, or I'm not doing it this year, or whatever it is. The other thing is that I did notice, people were sending around little memes about going to their living room to bring in the new year in their pajamas. And for some of us, we've been doing that for years, but the idea that we are having to find new and different ways to be excited about doing life together. So that takes a little brainstorming. It takes a little effort. And the effort is worth it because these are pivotal times. We don't have a pandemic that's worldwide. Now, maybe that'll change in our lifetime. But many of the things that are going on now, even though a lot of these decisions are being made by organizations on behalf of us around the globe, we can't predict the future. All we can do is make the most of today and make the most of this moment. So in this moment, on January the 1st of 2021, and if you're already into January the 2nd, then wow, congratulations, you've made it through the first day. In this moment, as we go forward this year, a good portion of the things that we've been living with, that people have been saying, I can't wait for 2020 to be over. Well, a lot of those things haven't changed in 24 hours to today. And there's no telling whether or not they will change significantly over the next little bit. So it requires changes from us. It's changing us, whether we acknowledge it and take hold of it or not. And certainly the concept that we tic-tac-toe, yes, I'm sorry, I got a little behind in the comments here. Tic-tac-toe is a great game. Hi, Michael and Rick and Hugh. Welcome. So for people who are control-oriented, you've probably not let this opportunity languish under your efforts to control. You're probably making lists and checking them twice and doing what you can to make the most of how you're going to, embrace these new times. And then there's the opposite approach. You let the new times unfold and you respond as required. So, hey, Jim, welcome. There's a medium there. And the medium requires us to acknowledge who is really in control and to embrace that relationship in order to meet the challenges of these times. So, welcoming ourselves into 2021 gives us a little energy. It's a new year, and you always get energy from a new year. That's true whether you're doing a Chinese New Year or a Gregorian New Year or a Coptic New Year. Every calendar, we as people, we like beginnings, we like celebrations, we like traditions, birthdays, holidays. These things mark time for us. Hey Cameron, it's cool in Australia. Well, and Australia is so big, so it probably depends upon where in Australia you are. I have some friends in Tasmania, and I bet they're on the warmer side. And isn't it nice to have a day where the weather isn't railing on us for this moment, at least where I am standing. So, with the new year, with the marker, what I would like to do over the next few weeks is just focus a little bit on how to meet challenges, how to prepare our heart for change, how to prepare our heart and our soul to embrace opportunities, how to be walking so closely with Jesus that some of these things aren't challenging at all for us emotionally, just in the physical implementation of what we're being asked to do. And I don't say this so that we don't have any emotions at all. Not at all. We're emotional creatures, and in fact, we are cautioned that we should not be making those decisions by emotion, but with our head, specifically because we are emotional creatures. I'm just saying, at some point, the overwhelmingness of it all can be put aside if we spend some time on nourishing ourselves with the Lord and letting Him buoy us up, shore us up, walk with us in such a fashion that we're not running ahead of Him, trying to anticipate His every need, but instead allowing ourselves to walk right next to Him and meeting His every request as it unfolds with us, with the trust and the faith that we are equipped with what we need, and if we're not, He's got that handled. Hey Cameron, I am still here. I hope you're there. Dwayne, Happy New Year. Doesn't mean never have a plan, but as we move forward with our plans, our desires, our goals, our resolutions, that we do so side by side with Jesus. It's one thing to be out in a yard playing under His watchful eye as our Father. It's another thing to be on the road traveling way ahead of Him and not allowing Him to guide us and protect us. Like having your kids move forward across a busy street without you holding their hand and without them looking. Terrifying, right? And of course, the Lord wants for us to look both ways before we step out into the street. He wants us to know that He's there providing us with guidance, and we just need to ask. We just need to be available to Him. These new resolutions that we want to create, are we available to Him? I'm sorry, Cameron, I can see that you're saying you've lost contact, but I still see you. I see your comments. We want to be available. And how does that happen? We want to be listening. How does that happen? We want to be longing. How does that happen? We want to be excited about sharing what we're doing with Him. And how does that happen? Through relationship. Children who are adopted, in their first moments with their parents, whether they're tiny infants, toddlers, elementary school children, middle school children, high school children, in their first few moments with their parents, they don't know that those adoptive parents are there for them. That's established over time. The infant will be the first to be accepting because it doesn't know any different. The teenager, young adult, will be possibly the latter to be accepting because so much experience has gone before meeting with these new adoptive parents. If you've known Jesus since you were a little child, then you have the beauty of knowing He's in your corner. If you've not come to Jesus until later in life, dependent upon how you got there, it might be a tougher relationship to embrace because He's more than our friend. He's more than a buddy. He's our Creator. He's our Father. He's our counselor. He is there in every way that you can imagine and that you can't even imagine. He is never unavailable. Only we are unavailable. What a fabulous idea to always have your father with you. I lost my biological father, my dad, in 2005. I miss him so much. I will see him again, but I always have my father. He is always available. And I realize, even as I sometimes speak with my own father, sort of in a reminiscent style, who I'm really talking to is my Creator. The person whose hand is always there for me to reach up and hold. The person who's there to hug me at all times. To be a shoulder for me to cry on. To be a happy, radiant face when I'm excited and want to share something exciting. To sit there and listen quietly when I come to Him with a problem, a trouble, a need, and I need to be heard. I just think that it would be so exciting for all of us to be able to approach 2021 in a way that it strengthens our relationship with Jesus. If you're thinking about writing down a list of resolutions, or if that's not your style, but you got some big changes coming up in your life, or some opportunities, or you're short on changes and opportunities because you haven't been looking, start with Jesus. Start with Him and move forward. Ask for the guidance. Ask for the help. And then be patient and listen. If you've got friends and family that you can network with as you look forward to 2021 and the idea of maybe doing some things a little differently this year just because the opportunity has afforded itself. Maybe you don't even know what that opportunity looks like yet. You just know that life isn't going on as normal and it makes room for some change, right? Sometimes that change hits us with a pink slip. We've been let go from a job. Sometimes that change hits us with working from home and having to juggle working from home and caring for children or helping our children do school at home. Sometimes that change comes from others in need and you're able to help. And sometimes the change comes from you being in need, me being in need, and having to ask for help. Not just from Jesus, but from friends, family, strangers even. If you have a need and you don't tell anybody about it, how can you be helped? There's the mystical side of the supernatural business that God knows about, and that whole idea that you can throw it up in prayer, and if God grants that prayer, then hey, you're good, and if he doesn't, then maybe your faith isn't so strong. We need each other. We shouldn't be the solution to each other without prayer and without Jesus, but we need each other. And we definitely should be reaching out to help each other. And we should be reaching out if we need some help. That's a hard one, isn't it? So, I have no idea what time it is because I'm just standing out here in the yard. And I think I would like to share with you, instead of looking at my face, this beauty. It's very peaceful. Each of us has a place near us, outside our door. It could be a lake, it could be a forest, it could be a park, it could be the alley in between two buildings. But if you step outside, you will see God's hand in it in some way or another. Hey Sarah, welcome. If you step outside, even in the city, you can see what God's got in store for you. We took these kinds of things here and built homes. You can see some of those in the distance. There are planes going overhead. And this is a beautiful view. But there is beauty outside of each of our doors. Sometimes it's the beauty of a piece of grass growing in the crack of a sidewalk. You ever looked closely at the blades of grass growing out of a crack of a sidewalk? The strength of that? God is so full of blessings for us. He is so full of love for us. He is so enamored with us. He loves us so much that he gave us his son. And all of this is for us. So behind me here is, the food shed for the homeless and part of Bob's house. And it's very busy here, especially in the mornings when we're moving product and shifting things around, and we have some very, very faithful servants of the Lord that help every single day, and others who contribute work every single day to move food from one place, from the donors to other people who need it. We have people who work on the sidelines doing other kinds of things every single day they're helping people. Every single day we're helping people. I hope every single day you're helping people, because that's one of the greatest blessings of all. So, what nourishes you guys? I feel nourished and recharged when I am helping people. And sometimes in order to gain a little extra strength there, besides getting the right amount of sleep, spending time in the Word, or spending time talking with people about the Word is another huge nourishment for me. You know, God's Word and the desire to be helpful, those are transferable in any career, any opportunity, anywhere, all the time. You'll never be short of seeing how you can do something for others if your nature is to be helpful. You'll find that you're looking for ways to do that. You'll find that you're willing to ask how you can be helpful in order to do that. And you will definitely have something inside of you flip on. You know, there's the neurobiology, the neurotransmitters in your brain, the chemical situation, the endorphins, all the various things that go on. There's science for all of that, but God knew that, and He created that, wired us that way. And in the end, science, whether you understand it or not, what you will know is when you help people, you'll feel good. You don't even need to they don't even need to know you've helped them. It doesn't matter. You know you did it, and it feels good. It's wonderful to be able to help other people. Anytime, in any way. Something small, like opening a door or picking up a piece of trash. Somehow picking up the difference in a food bill at the cashier in the grocery store for somebody who couldn't pay for it. Paying forward if you're going through a drive-through. It doesn't require money to be helpful. Your time, your energy, cleaning up in your community, taking time to say hello to a neighbor that needs a little extra touch, reaching out to an aging family member, reaching out to an aging anybody that might not have somebody else to reach out to them. It doesn't require money. It just requires a willing heart. Your willing heart and Jesus will give you direction on what to do, where to go, how to be helpful. Pay attention to it, live it forward, share it here, share it in the chat room, share it on the Matrix Facebook page, share it with others. Not in a boastful way, I'm not saying that. You don't need to share it in a boastful way. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying share your energy and your heart with others. Be encouraging. You will be blessed and you will be a blessing. And you've heard Bob say that so many times. So I will bid you adieu today from the middle of Tennessee on a glorious day in January. I am sure by next week I will be wearing a jacket. But on this fine day, I am glad to say hello in a t-shirt. And for those of you who know my tie-dye-ness, it's a tie-dye t-shirt. There you go. We do need tie-dye, don't we? Tie-dye sanctuary shirts. Have a great afternoon. See you next week.